Welcome back to Paul's Tech News. We've finally made it through, my friends, and upon this, the first full week of March 2025, all the promises made at CES back in January have been fulfilled. Almost. If you don't count Nvidia, I suppose. But with the debut of the Nvidia GeForce RTX 5070 Tuesday and the AMD Radeon RX 9070 and 9070 XT Wednesday, all was set right in the PC gaming world. Everyone who wanted a new GPU now has one, and reviewers can take a much-needed break from the constant benchmarking to spend time with family and perhaps get our affairs in order for tax season. Actually, none of that is true. There are still plenty of frustrated would-be buyers out there who couldn't get a $550 9070 or $600 9070 XT, particularly outside the US, albeit relatively fewer than those who had their sights set on the RTX 5070, or so it would appear. And the launch gauntlet will be extended, it seems, well into springtime, with RX 9060 and RTX 5060 rumors starting to crop up, and even possibly an RTX 5050 in the works. Maybe Nvidia will even have more than 50 of them available on launch day too. Probably not. It's time for tech news. Excellent! Today's video is brought to you by the Corsair Frame 4000D computer case, available in a variety of configurations thanks to the Frame modular case system. Customize your cooling with the InfiniRail fan mounting system, use removable panels to cover cables or mount fans to guide the Frame 4000D's high airflow pathways, or go for a clutter-free build thanks to reverse connector motherboard compatibility. There's also room for dual 360mm radiators and included GPU anti-sag support and easy IQ Link integration for RGB control and system monitoring. For more on the Corsair Frame 4000D, click the sponsor link in the video description. Let's begin with the AMD Radeon RX 9070 and 9070 XT launch aftermath. If you watched my review or my launch day roundup, you probably already know that performance-wise, the GPUs have been well received, with the 9070 XT offering a bit more value and performance typically above a 7900 XT, sometimes matching or beating Nvidia's 4070 Ti Super or 5070 Ti. The 9070 non-XT is 10 to 15% slower than the XT, depending on the game and settings of course, but it manages to still beat out the 5070 across the board in raster tests, and only slips slightly behind in ray tracing, where AMD has made a big step forward with these new RDNA 4 based GPUs. That was enough to get even Steve and Steve to crack a smile in their review thumbnails, which is wholly unprecedented, but the true test came Thursday when the cards went up for sale. Retailers shared warehouse photos of massive stacks of Radeon 9000 series cards, gamers lined up outside Micro Centers here in the US, and while it seems that many came away with a card, there was still plenty of disappointment going around too. Demand remains very high for GPUs of this caliber, simply put, almost as if there was a limited amount of TSMC yields available and an outsized portion of them were being allocated to more profitable AI chips instead of silly GPUs for PC gaming. In particular, I heard a lot of grumbling from European shoppers who were met with out-of-stock notifications within seconds of the GPUs going up for sale, as well as retailers already seizing on the opportunity to mark up prices over MSRP. We do have some solid stock numbers from a few sources though, such as Overclockers UK stating that they've sold over 5,000 units on day one just in the UK, not including the rest of Europe, which indicates that while AMD wasn't able to meet demand right out of the gate, they did have a lot more units available than Nvidia did with the 50 series, which for Micro Center here in the US was in the hundreds when the 5090 launched. They had about 2,400 5080s, and there was even less stock available at Newegg per my anonymous source. Even for this Radeon launch, Newegg has apparently canceled some of the initial RX 9070 orders that went through, and while it's tough to get a complete assessment of what was available since many outlets do not share sales data, the 9070 XT at least took the top spot on Amazon's bestseller list quite quickly on Friday, with multiple Radeon 9000 series cards in the top 10. It does seem like lining up at Micro Center was the best bet to get a card on launch day once again though, just as it was with the RTX 50 launches, almost as if AMD prioritized seeding units to a brick and mortar store so they could capitalize on the visuals of customers lining up around the block and smiling when they physically received the card that they bought, which is tougher to do with online sales. Still, skepticism remains as it's rumored the MSRP prices for these cards won't hold. inet.se stated as much in a post on their website, and an OC.UK rep said prices will jump once the first batch of units are sold through. It's still too early to verify that, however, and optimistically, AMD does seem to be getting units restocked as quickly as they can. The day after launch, restocks do seem to be happening, as reported both here in the US and in the UK. And also good news, Tim from Hardware Unboxed published his FSR4 video where he has really set the standard for image quality comparisons of this nature, and he's quite positive about it. By far the best upscaling solution that AMD has ever made, says Tim, although broader game adoption is what is now needed for it to truly come up to par versus Nvidia's DLSS. And with that, we gently segue into tech briefs, because Joe's going to Disneyland, so I need to give him more time to edit. AMD seems to have more Radeon 9000 GPUs in the works. The RX 9060 XT has been spotted in EEC filings and seems to be coming in 8GB and 16GB configurations. Not much is known about the 9060 XT, although speculation is leaning towards it using the smaller Navi 44 GPU, which would mean a disappointing 128-bit memory bus. No word on pricing, but it's likely the 9060 XT will debut sometime in Q2 2025. Oh yeah, Nvidia launched the 5070 this week too, although the gaming public seemed to already be so frustrated with the 50 series launches to date that the result was a foregone conclusion. Most reviews focused on just how egregious Nvidia's blatant lie about the 5070 offering 4090 level performance was, and properly identified its performance as what it is, a 4070 Super with a modest 2 to 3% overclock, which might have been somewhat acceptable if they could actually be purchased for $550, but again, Nvidia seems to have gone to the trouble of launching a GPU, but forgot to ship remotely enough inventory to retailers. As if to completely alienate their audience, Nvidia even waited until just hours before launch to tell reviewers that, oh, by the way, that 5070 Founders Edition we sent you to review and show everyone for this launch won't actually be available for like another month. The internet was briefly vindicated Thursday as it seemed an RTX 5090 recall was starting to take shape, purportedly due to the 12V2x6 power connector's fire hazard potential. That information was sourced from Dutch retailer UW Game Specialist, who replied to a customer saying that their inventory of 5090 stock had to be returned due to an increased fire hazard. That just wasn't true though, and both the retailer and MSI have now confirmed with KitGuru that no recall has been issued, and UW Game Specialist isn't even an authorized reseller of their products. So we can all rest easy knowing that nothing is still being done about the problems with the 12V2x6 connector. Thank goodness. Something Nvidia did confirm last week was that some quantity of RTX 50 series GPUs on the market are missing ROPs. They said specifically the 5090 and 5070 Ti are affected, and that is a big enough problem that Nvidia wants you not to bug them, but bug your board partner manufacturer for a replacement. Thankfully, the RTX 5080 wasn't affected last week until, oops, actually never mind, it is too. But what about all those RTX 50 series laptop GPUs out there? Thursday, reports came out that Nvidia is having laptop manufacturers check their ROP counts too, which isn't a good sign. But thankfully, Nvidia notified The Verge later that day that laptop GPUs are definitely not affected. And why are you guys making such a big deal out of this anyway? Definitely ignore Hardware Canucks saying 3 different laptop makers told them Nvidia is having us open ready to ship pallets of laptops to check for GPUs with missing ROPs. And also ignore me saying that I heard this exact same thing from a big laptop manufacturer representative who I work with. I mean, when has Nvidia been wrong about this sort of thing before? Speaking of Nvidia GPUs with missing performance, the RTX 5060 and 5060 Ti seem to be next in line to disappoint gamers everywhere when they launch, and that announcement might be coming right soon, in about a week if Twitter leaker Megasize GPU is to be believed. The actual launch would take place about a month later, or in April according to the rumor, and the 5060 Ti is expected to also have an 8GB and 16GB version. No indication of price or expected performance as of yet, but based on Nvidia's track record so far in 2025, the only way to not be disappointed will be to expect to be disappointed. Continuing with that theme, there was also rumor of an RTX 5050 this week, which I initially hoped would be a GPU-shaped orange creamsicle, but it might actually be a video card, which isn't nearly as delicious. I'm going to try to stick to my unfounded optimism outlook on this one, since Nvidia has really left the entry-level market high and dry in recent years, seeming to not want to sell any GPUs for less than $300 or so. So an 8GB RTX 5050, in theory, is a good thing if Nvidia really sees Intel's Battlemage GPUs as enough of a threat in this price range to do something about it. The Arc B580 and B570 offer good value in the $200 to $250 range, if they can be found in stock, of course, so one might assume Nvidia needs to hit similar, if not better, performance for an RTX 5050. But again, this is all very much unfounded optimism, which is really a vital outlook these days when covering the GPU market. Lastly, we have something other than GPUs. CPUs. AMD crushed it with the 8-core 9800X 3D, and it's likely that that CPU will remain the go-to gaming PC processor, but for those who want to get work done too, the 16-core 9950X 3D and 12-core 9900X 3D now have prices and a launch date. The 9950X 3D will be $700, and the 9900X 3D will be $600, and the launch date is this week, on March 12th. Also, and this might be a little confusing for Nvidia GPU buyers out there, the new and faster CPUs coming out will result in the price of the slightly older CPUs going down by about 20 to 40 bucks depending on the model. Remember when GPUs used to do that too? Yeah, neither do I. But I will remember to say thank you for watching today, and there you have it guys, tech news for the week. And if you liked it, click that like button or leave me a comment down below. While you're down there, all of the articles that I talked about today are linked in the video description if you're interested, and you can also check out my store at paulshardware.net for high quality merchandise such as t-shirts, hoodies, beer sets, and more if you'd like to help support the channel and get yourself some awesome merch. Subscribing to my channel is always a good call too. Thanks again everyone, and we'll see you next week. Good Lord.